Oh boy, there's some controversial changes coming to BDO and they're almost here. This is a letter that's been posted on the announcements on the main website for NA Black Desert, NA EU, and we're going to go through it. Basically, the Guild War change is coming through. So let's just dive right into it and then we'll talk about it and how this is going to affect us. Greetings, adventurers. First of all, we would like to thank all the adventurers who have been enjoying Black Desert. Today, we would like to provide prior notice regarding the changes to the Guild War system that has been in place for a long time. Starting from September 13th maintenance, that is 1 week from when I'm recording this video, the Guild War system will be changed to allow wars between guilds with mutual agreement. That means you can't deck a guild and just start going ham. They have to accept it as well. In Korea, the system was updated at the end of July. Since the system has been in place for a long time, it required careful examination and consideration of the situation and necessity in each service region. As a result, the update schedule for the content in each service region has been adjusted. We kindly ask you for understanding regarding this matter. Now, they say consideration for each service region, but I don't think any of them are changing. I think they're all getting this change. Correct me if I'm wrong, though. If any region they were gonna forego this, it would have been NAEU. But looks like they are getting this change because I feel like NAEU has a pretty good balance of that. It's not just notorious griefing. There is legitimate wars that go on, and I think that's a majority of them. Black Desert is a game that allows adventurers to enjoy adventures in the open world. Due to the nature of the open world, as more people gather in a monster zone, the individual's range of combat decreases, eventually leading to the experience of having to move to a different zone or server. Actually, we just flag up and fight. Various updates have been made to solve this problem, but many adventurers still face difficulties and concerns due to conflicts in monster zones. Alright, this is going to be actual metrics now. In NA, there are currently around 100 cases of one-sided conflicts occurring daily, which corresponds to an annual average case of around 37,000 cases. In EU, there are currently 120 cases of one-sided conflicts occurring daily, which corresponds to an annual average of around 44,000 cases. So obviously we know EU has a lot more players than NA. Well, I don't know about a lot more. We don't know the exact metrics, but it has more players. That much is confirmed, and I've heard on many occasions over the years. So this does not surprise me, and looking at it actually gives me a nice little gauge of maybe around 20%, 10 to 20% more players. PvP in Black Desert allows forced attacks, but the disadvantages that come with it are set to be very powerful. However, in the case of one-sided wars between guilds caused by conflicts in monster zones, it is also being utilized to kill opponents without any disadvantage. That means you don't lose karma, and that is the main reason, and that is one of my biggest concerns with this change. As much as I am a fan of being able to grind in peace, I do have concerns about this, and we'll talk about this at the end of the video. After a long period of consideration and confirmation of the situation, we have decided to exclude one-sided wars from the Black Desert system with the September 13 maintenance. That is 1 week from recording this video. Furthermore, related updates to alleviate monster zone issues, which is one of the main causes of guild conflicts, will also be applied along with the changes to the Guild War system. Firstly, the usage of Marni realm will be improved so that it can recharge over time after leaving, which will allow you to access Marni's realm for more than the current total of 1 hour and 5 minutes each day. We expect this change to help solve many issues related to the monster zones. Additionally, the waiting time for server changes will be reduced from the current 10 minutes to 5 minutes. When there are no available spots in the zone, adventurers had to wait while changing servers, which caused stress. I don't think it caused stress. People's just impatient, but I understand because I am one of the impatient ones there. Therefore, we decided to reduce the waiting time to 5 minutes. And this could actually be huge for gathering some of the more rare materials like truffles. So that's actually pretty cool. Let's see how that plays out. And honestly, that is one of the main reasons, right? It is the monster zone. It is grinding. We hate it when we can't find a grind spot. And the higher gear score you get, and if you're in a lower AP monster zone, you're more likely to be a bully and start flagging up on people, DFSing and stuff. And that is the etiquette of BDO. Me, I always say no to DFS, but that is the etiquette. I accept that. But whenever there are new players involved that are just starting out, just started off a couple months ago, and they're blasting through the progression and and going through all the new monster zones and climbing their way up, they have a different mindset than us veterans. We understand what BDO is, and for them it's still a new experience, and they're not a guaranteed player that will transition to the end game. It is very difficult to convince a player to play BDO first of all. It's a niche, and then stick around through the early game because it's so overwhelming and cluttered. Then stick around through the mid game, getting all those initial upgrades, and finally make it to the end game. And that's despite being underpowered in PvP, where max geared or hardcore hard cap player can come in and just wipe them out in like one tap. And it is such a difficult thing to convince a player to stay that long. I mean, as much as they love the game, over the course of hundreds of hours, it really wears you down. So it is a challenge to keep them in the game. And this is a risk they're taking. But hey, we'll have to see how that plays out. And we'll talk a little bit more about this. Lastly, there will be an expansion to monster zones where you can obtain spirit essence materials. We expect this will help alleviate overcrowding of specific zones. God damn it, I'm going to have to update the BDO Rare Discord again. Although the update may seem drastic and significant, this decision was not made abruptly based on the current situation. It is a decision that has been made after a long period of contemplation, attempts, and efforts. This decision may bring about many changes, and there may be areas that are lacking. However, we'll continue to make improvements and updates in order to continue developing this area. Thank you. They didn't even put a name. Can't even point the finger now. All right, so firstly, why are they doing this change? I think it's because of the new players. I think it's about retaining players and fighting some of the more toxic elements of the game. Personally, I think it's one of the soul and one of the main aspects of BDO, the open world PvP, the flagging up, the conflicts that arise from it. And that's been a staple of BDO since the very beginning. Now, let's take ourselves out of the comfort zone. I like to stay comfortable and keep things the same and just improve things little by little, but this is a drastic change and it's a risk they're taking. They are rolling the dice, upsetting the existing player base and the end game player base, the hardcore players. It's a very risky thing to do for them, and I respect them for actually trying to go through with this, and which they are actually. But one of the big concerns about this change is obviously griefing. Most of the conflict and the negative experiences I've had in PvP are not from people who are genuinely like trying to take my grind spot. They're just there to fuck around, to have fun and PvP. It's fun for them, but not really fun for me. It's like a very super geared person coming to a grind spot they really shouldn't be grinding at and then just dropping people. If you go on Arsha, I mean, that's what it is, right? People just go around grind spots hunting people. And that's just the nature of it. I have no problem with Arsha, but yeah. Why are they doing this change? It's basically to alleviate those toxic experiences and those frustrating experiences. Remember why they added aggro, right? Not everyone can play multiple hours a day. They can't play 3 to 4 hours a day consistently grinding. It's difficult. And for those players, it's literally zero chance of catching up. So in order to alleviate a little bit of that gap, they're not completely bridging the gap, and they're giving the same advantage to everyone, even those who play many hours. But in order to bridge that gap a little bit and help them out, they added the Agarus. And I think this is in the same manner where they're trying to allow those players a consistent experience where they don't have to worry about constantly being decked and fought. And, I've been in guilds where we were super underpowered compared to the strongest guilds in the game. And wherever you go, they're there and they just destroy you. It's like one tap, two tap, and there's just nothing you can do to them. It can be a very frustrating experience. So I wish they went about it a bit differently. Yeah, I mean, there could be like additional mechanics you add, like, hey, there have to be certain conditions that you have to satisfy in order to be eligible of a one-sided deck. Like, for example, flagging up and killing people, or, being within range of a player for a certain amount of time. There could be some flags they could have added to make this system a bit more complicated, sure, on their end, but I don't think this is the middle ground. I think they went to one extreme. And once again, I'm pretty biased because I remember BDO as a certain type of game, and this is changing that. And I'm trying to keep an open mind, and I'm looking forward to this because this is an advantage for me. But at the same time, are we changing the game too much? And those kind of things come up. But I don't think this is a drastic change. I think people will adjust to it because, let's be real, only a small portion of the games, a small portion of the player base actually enjoy the PvP and get to enjoy it for what it is. My bigger concern is griefing that comes out of this. Karma bombing is super easy. You just go and start grinding over someone, they'll flag up and start killing you. Now, in order to take advantage of the game's mechanics and punish you, they try to feed you to mobs. Now, this made things a bit more complicated because you had to be careful. But with the changes to the crystal preset, that's not really a thing anymore. You can easily turn off all your crystals or put on meme crystals and just go to town, which is a bit challenging in this regard. Before, you had, if you wanted to use all your gear, you had to equip it and there are crystals allocated to each piece of gear, where now, you can use your full gear set without having to worry about the crystals. So that's what I'm worried about now that they can't deck you. And, people used to do this without being in a guild, and it's nothing new, but this might increase the frequency of it. And it's never through genuine want for a grind spot. No one's ever going to Karma Bomb just for the grind spot anymore. I mean, there are a few people who probably do that, but a very small percentage. I think it's more of a griefing thing, and those who have been doing it are going to keep doing it, and now it's pretty much easier for them in a sense. But we'll have to see how this plays out. I don't think that's a very small percentage of the players who do that, and it's a very small number of interactions, so I'm not too worried about it. But I don't think this is a decision they took lightly. It's a risk for them, and I respect them for taking risks, and that is a very bold thing to do. I remember when Aeon took a stab at it, and for them, they took it too far. It was a very beginning of the game. I think it was like 6 months into it. Too many Care Bears were crying about, hey, they've been getting killed in open world. And I remember that was a faction game. That was a game that incorporated killing of players into the actual gearing system through abyss points. In the beginning, you couldn't really obtain abyss points easily from PvE stuff. It was a very small amount. Majority came from PvP. Now they removed rifting, which was the biggest sport in the game at the time, where you'd go into a rift and then you go to an opponent's faction, opponent's map, and start farming them. This was a lot less complicated than that, but I feel like to some players it could have the same effect where, hey, you just changed how I play the game. Now I don't want to play the game. And I think that is going to be quite a few players, but I don't think it's the worst thing in the world in the sense of what it's doing for the game. Hey, if this could, this might upset a few players, but it could keep a lot more in the game. So in the long run, we'll have to see how it plays out. Now let's talk about the changes they're making to the Marni realm, how it's recharging over time, and you'll be able to spend many more hours in the Marni realm, and also the current changes to the server cooldown reduction. So before, we'd have to just change servers and look for a new spot. And then once they added the Marni realm, we had the guaranteed hour of being able to at least 1 hour a day with no one fucking with us. We can go grind. And that's great. I liked it. Certain spots I didn't like using the Marni realm. Certain spots I do. For example, Gyphins, you start off without the Butcher. At Hex, we had to wait and do a few rotations in order to get the rotation correct. But, it at least let me turn my mind off a bit and not worry about being flagged up on or attacked by an opposing guild. So it was a good mechanic they added overall. Now they're expanding that, so every hour that you grind there and it's depleted, you can wait a little bit and it'll start recharging. So I think it was like for every hour you wait, you get to go back in. So it's like every other hour you're doing a Marni or something like that. Let's see what they do exactly, but that's what I remember. Now this is because, hey, now that the guild single-sided decks are gone, how are you going to push people out of your zone other than flagging up, which is pretty expensive now? They're going to probably make the karma system family-wide. They didn't announce in this note, but I believe that is coming as well. And now that we can hop around a lot quicker, I guess this is just to alleviate the upcoming change. So if people are griefing more, there are some fail safes and there is ways to spread players apart. I really think this is such an early game issue because they did specifically mention spirit essence materials. And yeah, I don't know how I feel about that in the sense that is that really necessary now that we can buy it? Because the fact that we can buy it really alleviated the spots already. A lot of players aren't going to go and grind it out and they're like, hey, I can earn the money a lot quicker than I can get the materials and make it myself. So I don't think it was a necessary change, but hey, I'm always pro quality of life. If it gives people more variety of the grind, I think that's a good thing. The future of BDO isn't just that 1 million gear scored hardcap player and PvP Andes who PvP all day, okay? It's all the players. We have to take everyone into consideration. As much as I'd like it to maintain that hardcore repertoire and, people who make it to the end game, it's like we went through a crucible, but, we have to think about all the players who could stick around, who could join our guilds, who can eventually make it to Node Wars and Sieges and populate the endgame PvP scene. Now, yes, the open world scene is taking a hit, but we have to think about the future and what this could potentially mean for the game overall. I think it'd be amazing if the game would stick around for the long term and keep increasing in player base rather than just maintaining what they have right now. I think that'd be amazing for the game overall, but hey, one can dream, right? Let me know in the comment section what you think about this change. I know it's a very controversial one, and I apologize to anyone who might take offense to some of these opinions that I might have stated, but it's the nature of it. And, you have the right to voice your opinion, so feel free to use my comment section for that. I read every comment, and I'd like to hear your perspective on this. Anyway, take it easy, guys. Remember, like, comment, and subscribe. Over 73% of you guys watching my videos are not subscribed. Or is it 78? I forget. That number changes a lot, but please do subscribe. Thanks. Anyway, I'll catch you guys soon. Bye.